Good morning. It's the 5th of October today. It's a Monday and I have the next couple of days off work because I worked at the weekend, and I am treating myself to a couple of days of rest, relaxation, happiness and dates. I really miss going to museums, so I booked a slot to go to the British Museum today. Before that I have a couple of errands to run, but I also want to visit some independent bookshops around the British Museum. The book I'm reading, sorry I've taken away the dust jacket, but it's The Light at the End of the Day by Eleanor Wasserberg. But it's set in Poland just before the Second World War, and I'm assuming it will probably continue into the years of the Second World War, the Nazi occupation and all that. I know this book is going to make me cry because the first chapter, so I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but obviously the first chapter starts in 1939. Yeah. And in 1939 obviously there is the entire surrender by Poland and Germany sort of taking over, and the book starts on the night that Poland surrenders, if I'm not wrong, and it mentions there's just one line of the key family that we're probably going to follow throughout the book, that they sort of hope to go to Lvov, which is now Lviv in Ukraine. It'll be interesting to see what happens to this specific family. I do have a feeling it's going to be split. So I'm less than a quarter of the way through the book. I really like it. I feel like the writing is not necessarily one of the best writings, but it does make you feel like the characters are quite real, so that's quite nice. I'm now walking to the British Museum, but it's so nice because the sky has cleared out. As you can probably see, I'm very much shy to be filming in public, but we're giving it a shot. I do have to say it's really strange to see this part of town empty, obviously because of coronavirus and all that. There are not tourists around, but in a pleasant way. I do have a few minutes to kill and I'm really tempted to go in, but I also know that if I go in I might not come out on time, so maybe I'll come back later. It is a signed copy of Summer and I'm really tempted to buy it. So I just finished at the British Museum. It was actually really pleasant to see it without that many people inside. but not the entire museum was open. So if you're thinking about going and you want to see all the, especially the top floors, there is just one part of the first floor or third floor that is open, but it's a tiny part. All the mummies don't seem to be available for being visited just yet. But yeah, now I'm heading to the London Review Bookshop and I'll take you along. To refrain the urge of buying every single book, but I'll now head to find some food because I'm starving. All I've had this morning was a slice of toast and that's it, and a cup of tea. Yeah, so I'll find some food. Catch you later. Not only am I clearly starving, but I'm also craving Asian food. So what better place to head to than for a walk, and there's not that many people in the street, so that's good. And yeah, oh my god, I can't even talk, I'm so hungry. Hello, I'm exhausted. I want to show you what I got. So, at London Review Books Bookshop, I treated myself to one book. I wanted to buy so many more books, but I resisted the urge. I had a really nice chat with the person who works there. She was incredibly nice. She was like, because I joked and I said something on the lines of, oh, I'm really resisting the urge to spend all my money on books. And she was like, please do, please save us. And we had a really nice quick chat about pandemic and how sad it is that so many places unfortunately have to shut down. I did get one and it's 6 essays, Intimations by Zadie Smith. They are essays about 2020 and I think they probably have to do mostly with COVID-19 and also with justice and law, but that could be completely wrong. And then let's move on to the fun bits. Oh yeah, I just bought myself a bath bomb, but one of those good ones. I went to, as you saw, Chinatown, and I wanted to sit down and have a proper meal, but then I ended up just having a bao, which was fantastic. But that is definitely not enough to fill me up for an entire day, considering the only other thing I've had today was a slice of toast and a cup of bubble tea. So I'm going to have a feast for dinner with Andrew as well. So I bought some beautiful oyster mushrooms, which will need to go in the fridge as soon as possible because they've traveled all the way to Southeast London with me. And also this beautiful, what are they called? Enoki mushrooms. Oh, these ones are so delicious. I love them so much with a spicy sauce or something. Oh, good. Then we have some very boring soy sauce. And some, oh, these also need to go in the freezer before the defrost. Some pork and vegetable dumplings to pan fry or steam. Your pocky, which I believe is rice cakes with some sort of spicy tomato sauce. It usually goes quite well with ramen noodles in my experience. I don't know whether that's the way it's supposed to be done. Some, oh, this also needs the fridge. Marinated pork shoulder, no, pork neck, sorry. And, oh yeah, some ramen bits. And I think I've got shin ramyun. What's it called? Mu pa ma tang myun. Vegetable. And this one is shrimp with tomato sauce, I think. Good morning. I may be dressed the same way you saw me on screen last time, but it's actually a couple of days later. I'm just wearing the same jumper because it's the warmest jumper I have at the moment and it's quite cold. As you might have noticed, my vlog just sort of ended abruptly last time. Like, the last thing you saw, I think, was some ramen cooking on the stove. I find myself being exhausted by the end of Sunday night, which is when I finish my 7th shift of the week. And then Monday and Tuesday I have this need to sort of do as much as I can because I didn't have weekend, and then now I need to make up for it. So I sort of make my days really full. The other day when I got home on Monday, I had a great day, but if you look at my walking app, you see that I walked nearly 20 kilometers. So on top of the 7-day week tiredness, then it came the physical tiredness of walking 20 kilometers, and then I just crashed. I spent the rest of the afternoon just on the sofa watching YouTube videos. I didn't do any reading even though I really wanted to. The plan was never to film yesterday because yesterday was quite an intense day. I had an appointment with the sort of immigration office, but I thought, you know, I'm still working from home. Why not share the rest of the week with you if you're interested? I would sort of like to wrap this vlog around the book that I'm reading, which so far I'm sort of a third of the way through the book. Yeah, not even halfway through. I'm now about to take Poppy on a walk. Come here. There she is. Look at this. She's the most beautiful dog. Usually we cut her hair, but part of me is really tempted to let it grow and then do the little bun. I love seeing her eyes, but it's just so funny when the hair just goes all the way. Like the hello. We're best friends. If I do have time, because I have a Zoom meeting at 9 o'clock, so it's got an hour, I might treat myself to a coffee shop hot chocolate. I've been rambling for about 5.5 minutes now, so I'll catch you later. I just wanted to stop reading for a second and address something about this book. So the story itself is quite interesting. It's about, as I said many times throughout this video, a family of Jewish Polish people who find themselves living through the years right before the Second World War and throughout the Second World War. One thing that I'm struggling with while reading this book is, first of all, the characters. Some of them are quite realistic, but many of them seem almost caricatures of themselves, so fixated onto one aspect of their personality that they don't seem to have multiple dimensions. So I do wonder whether it's something that, you know, I'm not even halfway through the book, so I wonder whether that's something that's going to change. But if it's not going to change, it's going to be a bit predictable maybe, because if you know the way a character is scripted and you know that there is not going to be any character development or depth added to the character, then that might feel a little bit flat. But I'm hoping that changes. I'm seeing already with one character in particular, she is showing different aspects of the same personality, whereas the other ones are very much still the way they were at the beginning of the book. but we'll find out. The other thing, and which is the main thing that I'm struggling with this book, is the fact that scenes, the author is really good at setting the scene. You sort of get immersed into that moment, but then there is this very quick switch between scenes that almost makes you feel as if there is something missing, whether that's been cut out in edit and it was originally there to begin with, or whether that was never there to begin with. It's a bit strange. Now I've reached a point in the book where the action is quite fast-paced, because a tragic event has happened and the scenes are coming in quite fast. So in this specific instance, it is almost understandable that the narration is like this, because, you know, sometimes when you face a traumatic event, you zone in and out of the event, and sort of your body does what it's supposed to do, whereas your mind is not fully there. Although this is narrated in third person perspective, so you are external to the story, you're not one of them. But I don't know, it feels a little bit strange because it's done the same thing at other points in the story where there was no need to adopt this technique. It was fine to either begin a new chapter and see that something has happened, or, in my opinion obviously, or it would have been nice to see how it goes from point A to point B. It's as if there is something missing, especially there is one story that happens. So there is a chapter that deals with the years before, sorry, that was my email, with the years before the Second World War, and so there is this scene that is taking place, and then you see it right after the aftermath of the scene, all within the same chapter, and you don't, there is quite an important, there is a piece of paper that sort of plays a part in between two characters and how they develop a sort of dynamic between them, but you just see the before and the after, but you don't see what happens and what was in that piece of paper. So I do wonder whether it's something that is going to be addressed later in the book. It's too early to say whether that is something that was done intentionally to reveal to the reader later or not, but if it was not done intentionally, that is something that I'm struggling a little bit with. It doesn't feel really rewarding as a reader. It feels almost as if the author felt that that wasn't something we cared about, and I do understand when you rely on a book just for the plot. I don't know, but even in that case, you rely on the plot, so you sort of want to see where the plot is going. But I don't know, I quite like the introspective side of things when I read a book, but this one is not sort of satisfying me in that sense. But we'll see. The story itself is very interesting, so I'll keep reading, obviously, but I'll update you. I was about to dig in with lunch, but I thought I'd share this little feast that I cooked myself. It was mostly leftovers. Boiled rice, Korean spicy pork neck, and I made some, I think it's called tteokbokki, and I put some mushrooms in it as well, and it's delicious. So now I'm just gonna dig in. As you can see, I've already tasted a little bit of the rice. I was starving, so I'll just eat myself some lunch. Hello again. It's another day. I honestly cannot remember the last time I filmed in this reading vlog, but the reason why I'm filming now is because I just recovered from a little cry. You can probably still see my eyes slightly swollen, slightly red, and my nose a little bit runny, so apologies about that. But I have finished reading The Light at the End of the Day by Eleanor Wasserberg. Very, very early on, you realise that the majority of the plot sort of is structured around this specific painting that is commissioned by the father of the family, whose name is Adam, of the youngest daughter in the family, whose name is Alla or Alicia, and is painted by this other character whose name is Joseph. The painting that is described in this book obviously is slightly different from the original, but there is an actual painting that exists, and the painting is called Portrait of a Girl in a Red Dress of Josefa Oderfeldovna, apologies if I'm saying that wrong, and it's painted by Josef Panikiewicz. The girl in the red dress is actually the great aunt of Eleanor Wasserberg, who's the author of the book. So yes, it is a fictionalized story, but part of it comes from this personal experience of having this person in the family, whom I don't know whether she ever met, but still, who inspired this book. The book per se is not perfect. As I mentioned, there are some parts in the plot that are intentionally rushed because they reflect sort of like the human experience in some specifically hard moments, and I completely understand why they would be rushed. In some other parts I feel like it could have done with an extra couple of pages. Even if the book can be quite long for some people, it would have been I don't know, I wouldn't have minded a slightly longer book with a little bit more description and understanding of why things move from one point in the story to the next, instead of just seeing the result of those actions that we haven't seen in the pages, maybe most of the time also within the same chapter. That being said, it's a really, really nice book. I was crying and talking out loud by the end of it because it's a really compelling story. I mean, my family is not from Central or Eastern Europe, so there is very little that I can personally say in terms of how realistic it is, but I've read a few books that deal with that period in history, and they seem fairly well represented within this book. I can definitely tell that there is research that has gone into this, and if you read the acknowledgement section, you will see that she has obviously spent years working on this specific manuscript. There are some parts that I found quite interesting, especially when there is discussion about the concept of refugees and how some people who are effectively refugees may not feel the term refugees applies to them because of their background. I found that quite fitting because obviously that, yes, in this specific book is within the context of the Second World War and being a higher class sort of person that finds themselves in a refugee situation, but translating that into the current climate and seeing that, obviously I'm saying this from a very Eurocentric perspective and seeing myself as the lucky person who lives in Europe, and that makes me think of all the cases of overly qualified people that just find themselves in these horrible situations, living in camps and living in terrible conditions for years on end and being treated with very little rights, and that generally breaks my heart, especially when you know that I don't want to say everyone, but obviously a chunk of those people had a completely different life when things were good in their country. But one thing that I want to stress in this video, but I keep stressing in real life, is also the fact that nobody in their right mind would decide to become a refugee. If somebody is a refugee, it means that things are really bad where they can no longer be. So yes, this is turning quite political, but I thought it was necessary to address that, especially after reading a book like this that, yes, talks about the Second World War, but talks about a lot about the concept of being basically stateless and for reasons outside your control. Political rant over. This book was really nice, made me cry. There are some, I found some personally things I didn't particularly like in terms of style of narration, but overall it was a really nice solid book. I can see that there was a lot of love and a lot of research going into this, and if I had to rate it, would probably be a 4 out of 5 read. So thank you so much for sticking by. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I really do hope you'll pick up this book if you do have the chance. Yes, there are better books that deal with the concept of being, you know, a survivor of the Holocaust, being a Jewish person during the Second World War. There are countless non-fiction books, and there are also plenty of fiction books. I do think this one is done with a lot of care and being careful not to offend people who have gone through that. This was my reading vlog, reading The Light at the End of the Day, a really nice book, and thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like this video, and if you want, why not subscribe or leave a comment down below. Thank you very much. Bye!